Hi guys, it's Ben again. This is the second video in the Jerk High Powered Rocketry YouTube tutorial on how to do a level 1 certification. The previous video we designed the rocket and counted everything. This video is dedicated to manufacturing and assembling the entire rocket. So we were supposed to have a video between the first one and this one, but that was cut due to it being very simple and not needing to have a whole dedicated video on it. But that process, you guys are pretty much just showing your files to the RSO board with the officers or executive, and they will give you a thumbs up if your rocket would theoretically survive the launch and is manufacturable. So now with that said, on to the manufacturing of this rocket. So now that we're on the manufacturing process, what we're going to be doing is looking at our open rocket on our laptop and make sure that we are doing everything based off of the design that we already have. So this is going to be lining up so we can cut everything in. When we assemble everything, we can get stuff to be where they're supposed to be based off the sim. So after checking my sim right here on my laptop, I'm supposed to have a centering ring on the motor tube to be located at ½ an inch behind. So we take this up, that's half, and this is, oh, there we go. So that is ½ an inch below, and the other one is supposed to be located at 9 inches. So now we have the location of where we're going to be placing our centering rings along the motor tube here. So I'm going to draw an arrow saying this way goes up. So this part is now ready for epoxying. And next is the body tube right here. I'll move the popsicle sticks and skewers out of the way. So this body tube we have to cut at 20 inches. So we'll line up right here, find 20 inches, and just give that a little line right there. So now that we have the lines and marking all done, we can start the cutting of the body tube. So I have a saw right here, and we're going to use this to cut where we're supposed to be for the design. Pull it up here, okay? So I'll just be cutting down right here. When we are using tools, we want to make sure that we're wearing safety goggles. Okay. Now that this is done, we can just pile that dust right there, and what we can do is just clean this up. So we can just run our fingers around and just scrape off that extra little dust. But now we have the body tubes, where this is being the 20-inch mark. We can just confirm our measurements. 20 inches, and then this should be 17 on the dot. So we'll mark this as payload. And then we'll mark this one M for motor. So now we know which sections are supposed to be what part of the rocket. So onto the epoxying stuff. I'll cut the video right here and we'll jump back when I have that all set up and ready to go. Okay, so just before we jump into epoxying everything together, we need to cut our fin slits for our body tube. So I have this 3-fin jig here, and what we'll do, we'll slide this to go on board here. And with this, we're going to mark where our fins are going to lie on the airframe. Okay, so we have the marker right here. So we're going to mark where the fin should go. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll take the fin jig off. Use this as a straight line here. Give a line straight down. On the other side as well. So again, that is covering all of the bit right there. So we want to make sure our fins fit in there perfectly. Just rotate over, do the exact same thing. Line up straight between the two. Bingo. Might be switching to a different marker. Okay, just has enough juice to go along. Okay, so, and then the final one. Connect that all together. Okay, now that we have this done, what we'll do is take the dremeling kit that is behind me and we'll cut out these bits of the cardboard to allow our fins to fit into here. So I'm going to jump to that real quick. Okay, so now we're going to be dremeling this. So when we are dremeling, or any using type of power tools, we have to make sure that we have safety glasses on. These glasses go over to my glasses, but we have plenty of glasses for the use. So we have our lines on the body tube here where we're going to be cutting out everything. And we have our Dremel here with how to turn it on down here and our speed here. So, and then with a cutting bit on there. So, I'm going to get started and you guys can follow along. Don't be silly with this. It can be dangerous. Okay, so now that we have all of our cutting stuff done, we can move on to epoxying and assemblement of everything together, of which I have two of my friends here. I have Yugansh and Jared. So as soon as we get all of everything mixed, they'll be jumping in and help me with assemblement of all the small parts. So of which we're using a 2-part 5-minute epoxy. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, so we'll just put it in this cup here and we'll give it a little stir and we'll get everything set up. In this cure right now, we're going to be doing our centering rings, our bulkhead, and our nose cone attachment. So let's get started with that. Say right about there. Beautiful. Okay. So now what we'll do is, what are you doing? Oh, that's fine. All right. So we're going to need a 1-to-1 ratio. We do have gloves for us to use, but right now we're out of stock. So when you guys are going through this, you guys will be wearing gloves. Instead of that, we'll be using these little shop towels that we'll use so we won't get epoxy on ourselves. And then we have this trash bag on top of the table to not have any damage to the table. Okay, so with that said, we can start on the 1-to-1 ratio. It does not, the 5-minute countdown does not actually start until it starts contact with the other part. Okay, that ought to be good. And we use the exact same amount of part B. And go in. Okay. There we go. And now we'll start mixing. So with this, we have 5 minutes to get everything mixed up together. I would say mix it around for 15 to 30 seconds just to make sure everything is together. What's the smell of this? It does have a little nice smell to it. Obviously it has a little choking. Okay, so we'll start by adding some epoxy to the centering ring, and Jared will start screwing that on. There you go. You got it. Okay, make sure it's like that, because we don't want that to go in now. Okay, and beautiful. And then I will start on the nose cone. So what we'll do, and Joe, let me know when you have that done, and we'll place that. There you go. Okay. Have it done? Beautiful. I usually leave it upside down like that, yeah. You want how you can help you go as well. I always recommend to do a little dry run before you epoxy everything together, just to make sure that you are ready to go and you thought of every step just in case if something comes up. So I'll use this to wrap around just to clean up the nose cone. Actually, I'll grab a new one. Okay, that's good. And we'll leave these here to cure. So that is looking lovely. Good job, guys. And we have a little bit excess, but we don't want to jump the gun just yet. Actually, we have enough, so, and it's still not cured yet. So what we'll do is we'll take our after centering ring and go alongside this centering ring right here. Okay, and we'll slide that onto, actually I did the wrong one. This is why you do multiple dry ones, guys. So I'll take this and just wipe it off. Nothing's cured yet, so it's not bad, but always want to make sure you go through all the right procedures just to make sure that you do everything right. So I recommend to do one at a time, but I have enough time here with this epoxy that I will just do this as well. So I'm going to add some epoxy to this here. This is enough just to get a light sticking here. We don't need to put too much on this first bit just to get it on. There we go. Oh, come on. Go on, yeah. Okay, so I'll be adding this onto it. We're going to just push that down to that line right there. So, oh, my screen turned off, so I'm just going to confirm that we're still rolling. Connect. So hopefully we're still rolling right now. I'm kind of going a little blind. Okay, yes, we're still going. So I want to make sure that this is lined up beautiful, which it is, and then we'll add some epoxy. So we only have a little bit left and it's starting to cure, so we're going to make this a little fast. I'm going to be a little generous, especially on this joint, because this is what's going to hold everything together. You do not want to skimp out on this. More is always nice, but obviously we don't want a giant amount of epoxy on this because we will be using this in flight. And I can feel by the cup, it is starting to get a little hot. So that's telling me that it's about to start curing. So I'm going to be a little fast here. Okay, and that ought to be good. I'm also going to get the back side here. Okay, now with that done, we're going to be jumping to the next section. So I'll pause this and we'll give this 5 minutes for everything to cure all good, and then we can start on the next part of the video. Okay, so now that all that stuff is done being epoxied on from the previous little bit, we're going to move on to the second part of epoxying, where we're going to be putting in a little bit of motor mount and our body tube over here. So all I did is slide on the fin jig onto the body and lining up with the holes here. So when we have the epoxy on here, we can start throwing in the fins. And I have a stack of 3 fins right here to my side. I'm going to try to have a better angle this time because the last one seemed to be a little too far down, so I didn't get everything over here. But I want to get all that good and going. So we'll start by mixing some epoxy together. I'll get this to, what's that? Okay, that looks good. Okay, so exact same thing. We're using the exact same epoxy. It's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio, and we'll get that started. Okay, and that 5 minutes starts now. Okay, just give it a little check. Okay, we are good to go. Let's get that mix. Just like previously, we're gonna have that 15 to 30 seconds of mixing to allow that to go. And between that countdown. Okay, so now that is all good. We'll bring in the body tube. And we'll bring in the motor mount, and we'll start adding epoxy to this outer dimension of this assembly ring here. We're not trying to put on too much right here, just to get enough to get in the body, get it to get stuck, and then we can add more through the fin tabs. Just nice little circle to make sure it's a nice coat. And then take this, line up here, and going to insert that and push that all the way down to right to be where it's supposed to be. We'll check along over here. Check from the top. That's looking good. Make sure it's in line like that. Grab a cloth to clean up here. Okay, so now that's in there, we can start going on the fins. So what we're going to do is add along the fin tab, base like this. And that will allow it to adhere directly to the motor tube. So push that directly on there. And we'll tap this up now. Scoosh that up. Oh, it's a little stuck. There we go. Get that to be slid right on there, just like that. Now we'll move to the second one. the exact same thing. And nice coat along there. Okay, throw this one in now. There we go. Get to the next one. That one's a little loose. There should be enough friction in there to get us to lock together. Add some more in there. Okay, so now that we have that along there, we'll throw that into this part. And slide that up there. Now with that in there, we'll shimmy this up. And what we'll do is pour some of this down here to get a nice bondage between everything. And we'll tilt this up a little bit to allow us to see a little more than what I'm seeing. Okay. And the same thing over here. And I'll drizzle down. Now we're going to take the centering ring that's here, there we go, and do the exact same thing on the inside and outside of that ring. And move that over here so you can see it. Move this over there while I'm adding. And there, and nice. So this will slide on here, okay, to the inside and the outside. And now I'm just gonna have to tap that in there. Oh, that fell in. Okay, so there she is. Now I'm going to add some epoxy on top and let that have a final pour in. I'm going to jump to the other side. I'm just putting the rest in here just to allow us to use the rest of this pure so we're not wasting any. And what we're looking here is to get this alongside the edges. We want to leave those holes that we have as clear as much as possible because we'll be screwing into those shortly. Like that, looking good. And we can come along after with a paper towel and make sure that we're all clean. And we want to make sure we're getting no epoxy inside that motor tube because we might have some issues later if we allow that to happen where we can't get the actual epoxy onto that body. So I'm just tapping this to make sure our fins are lined up, and we'll do a last little fin epoxy when we're done with that. And we'll give that over, we'll grab a piece of towel and make sure that we're clean from the top down. And that's good with this part. And then we can start directly on the upper portion where we have to put in a bulkhead and a coupler. So what we'll look at when we're doing this is I have a line that I just drew in there. If you can see that, over there we go. You can kind of see that line is. That's about 5 inches in where we have that in our open rocket. And what we'll do is we'll get epoxy along here, shove that back in there, get that to be about wherever we need it to go, have it stay there, and then throw in the coupler into there. So we can start mixing up that epoxy right now. We'll Can we use this chopstick? Actually, we can use some of this last minute epoxy that we have left over for the bulkhead. So we'll grab that up. That is actually starting to cure, so we won't do that. I'll just wipe it off and we can use the stick and we can start directly on the next part. Okay, so the booster, the motor part is being curing right now, and we can start on the payload section. So, exact same thing. I won't be doing as much because we're not as intense as we were up there with level epoxy, so we'll still have that 1-to-1 ratio, but we don't need as much. Like I said earlier, it is better to have more epoxy on there than none at all. My L2 motor housing was quite hefty. I used a little too much. Not too much, but okay, that's mixed up. We can we will get some epoxy along here and we'll slide that directly in there. So we'll get some along our stick. We can do that by picking up and just stirring around. That's my method. And then apply along the outside, just like we did it with the previous one. Right now, we're just going to get it to get stuck in there, not to be fully cured. So we'll add more epoxy later to allow that to be the case. Get some more. Okay, so now that that is on there, we can throw this in there. We're looking for that line in there. Okay, so we have a line. Now, what we have to do is add epoxy on top of that. So that can kind of get pretty easy, pretty fast. And all we have to do is grab some of the, oh, that's stuck. Grab some of that epoxy, pour that down there. And then we can move it around once it's in there. Okay, we can call that good. Whoa, don't get loose on me. So all I'm doing now is just bringing this along the sides here, and just as liberal as I can with it to allow it to have a strong adhesion together. Now what we can do is let this cure. So I'll come back to you guys in a second and we'll call that good. So I'm gonna let this actually cure on its side, and I'll be keeping an eye on it to make sure everything goes good. So we're gonna pause this and we'll get back to it in a sec. So what we'll be doing now is finishing the epoxying of the rocket, and then we'll be going on to recovery shortly after. So I already have one of them in right now, but we're going to be putting in the hardware insert for the motor retainer. So we have this little piece here. It's external threaded while being in-threaded as well on the inside. You need a hex key, and that will screw into the holes that we already have in our aft centering ring. So we'll screw that in. Want to make sure that you're lining it up and it's going up and down, because you would hate just to cross thread and just crack the wood, especially at this point. And the reason why we put it in now compared to the beginning is we don't want to risk any epoxy getting inside of the internal threads, because if it gets any epoxy in there, we can't use it. So the fins at the moment are a little fragile just because we don't have the external fillets inside, but with us using the popsicle sticks to get the epoxy to fall down, that is good to allow for internal fillets to allow for a higher damage resistance. Okay, so now that these are locked in here, for example, we'll take these and then screw right into here like this. You see that there? And now hold down a piece of metal that holds the motor in there. So now, as motor-wise, we are fully done. The epoxy is fully curing and that'll be done soon. But right now, what we'll have to do is get or make the fillets on the external parts of the fin. So, number tongue. So what we'll do is make up some epoxy, and then before we go to this, we'll be finishing up the payload section. So of which we have our bulkhead in there, it's fully cured. All I have to do now is add the coupler, which again that slides directly in right here. We want to get, again, the 3 or 4 inches external for that to slide into this part of the rocket like this. So we'll get the epoxy to go on here. We'll throw some on this side of the bulkhead, and then we'll finish up the fillets right there. Fillets or fillets, kind of how you want to go out saying them. But with that, we can start. I found a single glove in the box, so I'll be able to use that when we are, I usually use a finger to lay there for the epoxy, and that'd be good for L1, L2. Depending on the speed on your L2, you might want to go bigger diameter. When I was making my L3 rocket, I think that had about 1 inch fillet on it. Again, same epoxy, the 5-minute 1-to-1 ratio, and you guys saw me make this 3 times now, so you guys know the drill. Make sure it's all 1-to-1 ratio. In the future, if we do change the epoxy, just talk to the officers or the exec board and they can tell you the instructions on that. They also have instructions on the bottle themselves. Okay, that is 1/2 and 1/2. And we can start mixing. So once again, we want to mix to that 15-30 seconds to make sure that we get everything. Really mix that around. Oh, I didn't move the camera. That looks good. Really mix it around. Kind of gets this clearish color. And that ought to be good. Okay, so I'm feeling this backs, let's just do this backside first. So with that, well, yeah, so what we'll do is get some along here, we'll go spin it around. Think of it like a honey stick. Oh, that lost. The computer turned off. Okay. Now with that going, oh, poop. Drop some epoxy. Try to get that coated as much as possible. Okay, that looks good. Again, you want that full ring all the way around to be covered. Now we can go on the front side. Okay. So what we'll do is get some epoxy back up here. Get that slung around our stick. Kind of just spread it along here. Kind of just pinning it on. You really want to focus at the top of the coupler because when we shove it into the body tube, it will itself will push along the back. Getting about the first half to be epoxied, the other half that can stay as a friction fit. So get in here, line that up, do a test fit before you put that in. Please shove this in here. And that will just allow to make sure that you're not going to be wasting epoxy. And what I'm doing is just making sure it reaches everywhere. You can see we have some overflow on there. So tapping that down and then getting a rag just to clean up that. And we'll want to make that flush as much as possible. We want to make sure this coupler, we don't want to add any diameter to it because that'll be material we have to subtract either with sandpaper or with the Dremel to make sure it'll fit snugly into the motor side of the rocket. So we want to make that as clean as possible. Okay, there we go. Now this can be curing and we can throw this right there, and I'll be throwing on the glove now to draw the fillets. Sadly, the one I found is a little too tight for me. It's there we go. So hopefully yours will be a little tighter. So I'm going to be pulling this down. Actually, I'm going to leave that standing up. Okay. I'll be doing this for all sides of the rocket, all sides of the fins, I should say. And this is just making sure that the fins are attached as strong as possible. I did not put enough epoxy in this batch, so we're going to be doing some more. Bingo. Okay, so this one's good to go. This side, this is what we're doing. I'm just bringing that finger alongside there. Make sure that's all, yeah, it's getting in shot all along there. Now with your finger, you don't get as much of a fit compared to using a tool, for example, but if being honest, fillets aren't too demanding at level 1 or small scale level 2. So unless if you're shooting high and fast, I'd say you'll be good. Okay. Nice and glumpy on there. And then I'll show you like this probably. Yeah, you can see it. Just run my finger along there. See the epoxy. Fill it into that shape. There we go. Now, the other side. Let's use as much of that epoxy that I have. Okay, this is looking good. Okay, now the exact same thing with this one. Like I said, you can use either your finger or a tool. I've used both before. I kind of prefer your finger, you have more control, but when you go into upper level for high-powered architecture, you kind of need to switch over to a tool just because you're having a larger radius than your finger. So I'm going to leave this on. Are we still rolling? My laptop keeps shutting off. It's annoying. Okay. Yeah, it says we're still rolling. Okay. I'll mix them up. I'll mix some more together because we need some more left. Come on. What do you do? Why does it bubble? There we go. I'll say when we're done with this now, so we're almost done, we'll be working on the recovery system. So the eye bolts that we used previously, we'll be using that are in the bulkhead and the centering ring. We'll be using that for mounting the quick links to, and with that we'll be mounting the shock cord and then the parachute to that respectively, and I'll show you that in the next clip. Okay, that's all good. Now time to work on this fin. So I'm just gonna wrap that up in one thing like that. Okay. Okay, want our second to last fillet. I'm going good. Okay, last fillet before we go on to the recovery. It reminds me of like the rock candy that you used to have as a kid. And that will just like that. Okay, I'm finishing that up. All good. Now we can leave that and it can start to cure. So I'll take off the glove. I'll clean up my hands, and then we'll start on the recovery system. So I'll finish this up. But now that we are completely done with all of our epoxy work, except for the rail buttons, which you'll be able to do with yourself or by speaking to the RSO board, all the epoxy stuff is done, and we can move on to the recovery system. So I will tilt the camera down to here. We are at a new location. So this is the paracord that we use. Right now, with us having a rocket that is just shy of a body length of 37 inches, we want to have the shock cord be between 10 and 12 feet. So I measure this just out, so this black line here, that's where we want to cut. So we take the X-Acto and then pull away from yourself and then cut. So, oh, missed one strand. So with, you see there, the little white strays here, what we want to do is get that rid as much as possible. And one thing that we use to keep it not frayed, if you look here, it gets burned. So what we'll do is we take the igniter and slowly dab around it to melt the plastic of the paracord and have it fuse together. So what we're just going to quick and dab. If it catches on fire, just blow it out. What we're looking for is a full bead of melted plastic together. We're just tapping and tapping and tapping until it's just right. There we go. And if you look there, if it focuses here, you'll see that it's nice and bubbled up and there's no fans. So now that we have two sides of this, we have two carabiners here. So when we have the full length of the shock cord laid out here, what you want to do is measure a quarter down. So that for me will be right about here. This is where we want to put our parachute. So what we'll do is we have a little loop here. Put your finger through here, hook in, bring down and up, and then pull through that hole, this circle. This right here. Pull that tight, and all that will give us is this little circle here. And this will where we'll mount our parachute to. Again, we want that to be quarter length of the entire length of the shock cord, just like this. So now with that done, what we're going to do is attach the ends of these shock cord to the quick links. So with that, I'll show you a special knot. I'll zoom in, see how well this works. That worked well. I'm going to move this to be about there. Have it autofocus, there we go. So we have this end of the tube, shock cord, and the quick link. What we'll do is pull through, pull down like this. I'll move this around so you can see directly, like this. I'm going to go down and under, bend this, and fly that right through there. And then we're going to tuck this around and through there, locking that slip knot. So you can pull this as hard as you want, and it's not coming out. Unless, if you want to, you just pull this through the loop. Oh, almost there. Pull it through, pull that, and then it's done. So once again, I'll show you the knot. Through the quick link, bend around like so. We're going to go one under, bend, excess, bring through there, pull tight, and then we're going to bring the excess around and through the hole. Then we're going to pull tight. And that will allow the slip knot to be locked and not able to come out. So we'll do that again on the other side. Here she is. The exact same thing. Pull through, out, under, bend, go through, tighten, thread this around, and back through the loop, and pull tight. And there you go. So now with that done, we can jump over to the parachutes, and I'll give us a quick pause and bring that over after I zoom out. Okay, so now we're back with the parachute. I'm going to get this open and I'll put on the parachute. So, here is the parachute. Let's get that unfolded. There we go. The string looks a little knotted, but we can get that on. Okay. So I'm going to bring that over there, and then the string should be in frame. Yep, okay. So we're going to tie these. I'm going to get all 6 lines, sorry, 3 lines in line like that. Like that. If you can see that, all in line. So with that, just make sure it opens. That opens like that. That looks lovely. And then we're going to bring that up. We'll lay that along the table, and then we have our lines coming over here. So I put my finger in it to have a hole here, of which we're going to thread that through this part of the shock cord, and then going to bring through the entire parachute through that hole we just have here. And with that made, that finishes that part of the parachute. So there we go. Now we have the recovery all built and ready to go. Now we should have final assemblement. I'm going to bring that back up so I'll actually talk to you guys, not just my phone. So now that we have the recovery system all done, we can do a final assemblement. So almost there. So we're on the home stretch right now. We'll be finishing up in this clip. So we have all the recovery finished. We have pretty much all of the payload and the motor section all finished. Now we're going to do a quick little dry run of putting everything together to show how you guys put everything together, but also make sure that we have everything finished. So we'll start with the motor body tube section. We first want to grab the X-Acto or a drill. You want to poke a hole into there to allow a vent port. So that here. There's a little hole to vent out the air that we have when we go to altitude. And with the same thing in the payload section. It's going to be a slit, like an X for example, but just for a way for the air to get out. A circle, bingo. Just for air to vent out. Okay, so now we can get onto the adapter and retainer section of the motor. So remember when we added these 2 screws in right here. So this is the adapter for the the 54 mil to a 38 mil motor, which is our L1 and H100. So this will slide in beautifully like that. We want to line up with the holes. These will be our Z clips to hold down the motor. Those will slide through here and screw into those little channels. I'll do one just to show you guys the example. I'll do both. I just won't fully take them in all the way. So we'll go that all the way through, like that. and that to go through there and screw into that channel. And then we have this, you see there, to hold down the motor, that would be there, like that. So we have our motor retainer section done, and then now we can move on to our inserting our recovery system. So remember that eye bolt down there. We'll grab the long side of the recovery of the shock cord and use the quick link to get on there and screw that on. It's always interesting the first time because you're, what's it called? You're going through the whole, figuring out how to put it on, if you know what I mean. So now this is all attached and ready to go. There's a proper way to fold your parachute for flight. I'll show you that in the next video when we actually go through and launch. So before you attach this onto the payload section, I'm going to screw on the nose cone to the body. So the nose cone slides on perfectly like that. And with that level test, we have not gotten actually a good enough vent hole for air to suck in and out. So just do a little circle around there, you can cut off the excess. Okay, so now that's done, that can slide in beautifully in and out. So we want to grab our screwdriver, a drill, and then the screws right here. You put 1 or 2, I usually have 2 in mine, or 3 sometimes, depending on what I'm doing. Whoa, that was awkward. Please pardon my laptop. Go. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's not going in for some reason. I'll figure out why and fix that. So that's retaining the nose cone. We throw in the, oh come on laptop, there we go. We'll throw in this upper part of into the bulkhead. Like that. And the quick link is attached. Now we can wrap up the shock cord and parachute. Like I said, I'll just demonstrate how to wrap it up the proper way, but just a quick version, whole length, keep that to be together, bring up the shock cord up to halfway of the parachute, fold that over the shock cord of the strings of the parachute once more, like so, and then you can just wrap up around there. And then you can just stuff this excess in there. See that? Then we can pick that up. Whoa. Shove that in there. And then we can slide that on. And ding it. Oh, let's get that lined up. Oh, that's tight. I like it a little tight. There we go. The pops is securing it for the last little bit. There we go. So here's our level 1 rocket built, and then we can finish. I'll do the paint job outside of video and attach the rail buttons. Go about here and then about there. Once that is on, we're good for flight. So the last thing you guys can do after this is paint it. It's up to your liking, however you want to do it. If I think the next video will be us launching, so that will start off with me showing what you guys will need for launch and things like that. Make sure you are registered and have your NAR number, your number of the National Association of Rocketry, and then later on I'll also be launching in that video, and all that fun stuff as well. So I'm gonna try to get a camera to place on the rocket so we have a flight on that. So stay tuned. Congratulations on finishing your own rockets, and we get a flight in the next video. All right, thank you guys.